toleration, be the love. Before pride and exaltation, be the love. Be the love.
You are listening to Be the Love, transcending through the shadows into a higher state of consciousness. We are souls on the journey, opening up the conversation to heal, awaken, and connect ourselves and the planet to a higher vibration of love frequency. It starts with you. Everything you need is within you. This is your time. I am Stacy and Sam.
And I am Sam Fernandez, and we are your co-hosts at Be the Love podcast. Thank you for tuning in and ascending with us. Hop on board the Ascension Bus.
This is Adrienne Elise of the Supernova Soul Tribe.
This is Nicholas David Mann.
This is Dr. Brent Satterfield of Inner World Movement, author of Bringing Heaven Home.
Hi, this is Dana Parker with Inner World Movement.
Hi, my name's Steve Nabell. Here I am with Stacy and Sam on Be the Love podcast.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Be the Love, Transcending Through the Shadows. I am Stacy Musial.
And I am Sam Fernandez.
And we are your co-hosts and souls on the journey. And thank you so much for tuning in with us this week. And if you've enjoyed listening to our show, we would be so grateful for a 5-star written review on iTunes. Reviews really help the show become more visible and spread the word to others. And if it feels safe for you, I'd like to take a moment just to get centered with us. I'd like to begin by inviting you to take a beautiful cleansing breath in through your nose and out through your mouth, releasing anything that is keeping you from being present right now. And just take another deep breath in through your nose, breathing in calm, peaceful, loving energy, and breathing out anything you are ready to release in this moment. And take one more breath in through your nose, breathing in light and love for yourself, and breathing out the light and love and sending it to all of humanity, remembering that you always have your breath to come back to. Today we have Mathues Imhotep. Mathues has been working as an entrepreneur, business system designer, developer, consultant, and spiritual leader. His spiritual life and quest to uncover the deepest hidden wisdom continue to expand in a parallel path and was his saving grace and solace. Many people have been on the front lines risking their lives for the light, and he is no exception. This group has been called the Earth Alliance and has been working decades to support the mission of bringing the light and helping to support the activation of a new system. Mathues is the author of Seventh Seal, Hidden Wisdom Unveiled. He is a speaker on spirituality and has created over 25 videos on his material at 7sealcodes.com. So thank you so much for being here with us today, Mathues.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And so for those of you who have listened to previous episodes and have heard me mention being activated by a symbol before receiving the download for Be the Love, it was the symbol that Mathues was downloaded with, in which I had been activated with on 11/11, 2020. So I'm very excited to be able to talk with him today about that. And so before we jump in, I just would love to hear a little bit about your path and what got you started on this journey.
Oh, sure. Well, I woke up at a very early age. I would say that was like in my teens. And I had some powerful experiences when I was 19, kind of a sort of a self-realization experience when my higher self came in and spoke to me about my future. And that wasn't from meditating. That wasn't from anything except it just grabbed a hold of me and, really put me squarely on my path. I had an interest in discovering why I had this extrasensory perception ability so strong. I knew what people were thinking around me. I often was completing people's sentences a little bit rudely, like, I already know what you're saying, and needed to adjust that and allow people to, just get it out. And nonetheless, that led me to, when I was 17, the bookstore where a book ghosted off the shelf. It was Jane Roberts wrote a book called How to Develop Your ESP Abilities and Other Psychic Powers. And so, that was my introduction to Seth. And, that was very powerful reading that when I was 19, because it was indicating that my thoughts created my reality. And so I've really paid attention to what I was thinking about. And of course, I had then voices in my head a lot, guiding me. Later, I learned those were ascended masters. And so, it was really being mentored by my guidance system. My spirituality was very accelerated, if you will. And when I first saw the Great Pyramid on TV, like a flyby, I was like, oh my God, I feel really connected to that. What on earth is this overwhelming sensation? And so, when I had my first channeling experience when I was 22, I asked, what is my connection to the Great Pyramid? And they were like, well, you're the cornerstone. And so I spent like the next 2 decades unraveling, what that meant. And so I did take a trip to Egypt the first time when I was probably in my early 30s in 1998. And I did have some more downloads, if you will, show me that I was instrumental in architecting and designing the topology and the alignment to much more than the constellation of Orion. And so, I wrote my first volume. I have 3 volumes that I've written by 2001, about 800 pages on all these various subjects. And then over the last 15 years, I've been creating videos. I have 45 of them now that explain this light language, that there's a deeper master code sequence system of these ascension frequencies and sequences. And so that has been hidden inside of the English language. And so there's volumes of material on the subject. So it's quite a deep rabbit hole. But the symbol that, you mentioned, I channeled in while I was about 26 years old, and the voice inside my head said, get a pencil and a piece of paper. And, out comes the sacred geometry symbol that has never really been seen before. And I just was like, whoa, that's really powerful. And about 5 years ago, I had more communications to upgrade it into an activation sigil that has a bunch more information around it, like placement of numbers and sequences, and really invoking the 4 watchtowers and 4 archangels, so that one works with this, it really meets them where they're at and provides them clearing and, activations that initiate you into higher levels of consciousness.
That sounds like quite the journey that you went on just to get to that place. And so tell us a little bit more about the symbol and what that means and how people can use it, and how it's you're using it for receiving maybe higher states of consciousness.
Well, okay. So I am also going to be doing a training video and doing some certification, because we've found that those of us that have been working with it, and there's many people that have experienced hundreds now, but I didn't have a guidebook onto what to do with it. I just knew that I was supposed to create it. And then, from people's experiences trying different things, there became a lot of testimonials about what people would experience. And so in a nutshell, the first time that I had somebody sit on it, it really accelerated the energy that would activate the Kundalini. And that energy wanted to, go up to the top of the head and open the crown chakra, the 7th, center. The crown is the 7th seal. And so that's why I've called it all this. And so if there's an area in your body that is stuck, like your heart's not open or something to that effect, the energy will travel to that point and work with clearing it. And so we've learned, different ways to facilitate quicker processes for having that energy travel up to your crown. And there are those that, have been on a spiritual path for a long time that have experienced different things, like a very accelerated expansion of consciousness, whereby they felt like they were able to access their multidimensional self. And we also have been doing meditations on the 22nd of the month with people that possess the seal. We sit with the seal. We're activating a golden grid around the planet, but also many people report the same thing, which is showing up in like an etheric temple with the symbol on the ground and people in purple robes and white robes and, portals opening and other interdimensional travel back to Egypt. In some cases, several people reported standing in front of the Sphinx while it was being built, which is an interesting thing because I firmly believe that that was literally millions of years ago, and that we've been in some pretty incredible time loops, that the awakening of consciousness and the acceleration of shifting into higher dimensional realities is something that we've been up to for a very long time.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. It seems like the progression of this has just been going on for a long time and continuing to accelerate. So you mentioned
And then, of course, you slept with it, didn't you? So there's that
absolutely.
too. Putting it under your pillow is a whole nother
Yes.
thing. I mean, talk about a really intense sort of lucid dream. Often people report, like if you have any fears or blocks, in your psyche, it'll bring that up to be looked at right before you wake up. And that can be kind of intense. But that's not quite how you experienced it, is it?
Well, that night, I remember I went to bed after being activated and I put that under my pillow and I couldn't sleep at all that night. My body was just vibrating with energy. And then all of a sudden, I just received this whole download for this whole podcast, like where I was going to go with it, what the name of it was, everything. And so it was just this intense. And so I got up and I was doing my business plan that next morning and writing down all the ideas I was having as I was having them. And so it was just really an incredible experience. And then everything from there just flowed. And so
that's so awesome. I'm so happy that, I get to be here as part of your creation.
absolutely. And it's yeah, such a beautiful gift to be able to give that to humanity.
So yeah, it's been an interesting journey for me because I've remembered a lot of past lives, a lot of involvement in mystery schools and other things that I'm, beginning to. It's sort of like you have to own your experience. You have to own your wisdom, and you fully, step into it, and you become more comfortable, sharing. I mean, some of this stuff can be very personal, and I've also had a lot of experiences with ETs and going on board motherships. And, back 20 years ago when that happened, I wanted to tell people, oh my God, it's amazing. And they weren't bad. And it was great. And, I didn't always get the positive feedback, like, well, why is it happening to you and not me? Or, who do you think you are? And so it kind of shut me down with my desire to just come right out and say everything all the time. And my other profession, secret profession behind the scenes that you talked about in my bio, also is something I've had to use discretion about all the things that I know from being part of like the white hat community, working on bringing new financial systems and the like. So I have a lot of deep intel, and I have to kind of curb how much I want to just be transparent.
And how do you curb that? Like when you're trying to be authentic in these different energies and different realms, how do you balance
thank God that I've done a lot of work on, my consciousness and healing my heart and things like that too, because I had been adopted, and that set me up with some of these, self statements that weren't so positive, right? why wasn't I chosen? What's wrong with me? Why am I not lovable? On and on. And so I've done a lot of personal work, and so like when those folks were kind of shutting me down, I kind of took it personally. And so all of the inner introspection and the growth has me reflect on that. I'm able to just tune in. I'm really plugged into my higher consciousness, and so I can now tell when it's appropriate to say something. I just I feel like there's a nudge, or there's some kind of indication that it's the right time. And part of that has been there's things going on behind the scenes that we don't want to broadcast, like, so there's interruption or interference. And other parts of it are just some of the things that we know about are really horrendous, and is it even beneficial for people to have the deep, dark, awareness about how bad things are in certain areas like child trafficking and the like, so we talk to the people that recover these kids out of tunnels and stuff. And so there's a lot of, gruesome details and the like. So just having the awareness about all these things, that it's really up to us, many people looking outside of themselves, wanting Trump to be the hero or whoever, and ever the more so it's about all of us awakening to our divine consciousness, and that we're here to be the new leaders in the new earth. So so again, it's just about discerning what is the right information at the right time.
And one thing that you mentioned, and that I kind of want to go back to, is you mentioned that the existence of this earth and of mankind have been on a time loop. And that's something actually that is very intriguing to me, because I have believed for a while that, okay, the earth seems a lot older than what we're being told, right? And I was just wondering, can you explain a little bit more about the time loop that you're referring to, and this day and age, are we still looping, and where would you have any inclination on where we're looping to?
Sure, I have a lot of information on the subject, and much of it is corroborated, because a lot of this stuff I learned about 20 years ago, when I had the pleasure of meeting a very unusual man who, was like a cosmic scientist. He was a soul from the future. So he was an interesting time traveler in that he embodied, it's not like a walk-in. This is like, growing up as a kid and going, holy cow, I remember being from the future, and I have remembrances of that I was sent back on a mission. And then when this gentleman went to sleep, he was more awake on the other side on board ships. And, this was just a very advanced soul from the future that taught me a lot about these kinds of things. And then, of course, I've had my own experiences of lost time and, a variety of things, many stories, frankly, that sort of self-corroborate. But nonetheless, he was indicating, you guys ever watched or aware of a TV series called Fringe?
Mm-hmm.
So he said that he was consulting to things like Star Trek and other, programs that would come out. That one illustrates it very well. They break through, or there's a portal or a rip, and a rift that enables them to go through to a trans-dimensional reality where they meet themselves, identical selves, but they're like 10 years older. And in that reality, they have more advanced technology. So he told me that was, in fact, the way things were, and that he was able to traverse these realities. And they even made it, he was part of, what we would call now the secret space program. But at the age of 17, they came to him because he did some mathematical advanced things, and he became part of these, he called them white hat underground, secret projects. And nonetheless, they perfected time travel and travel between these different places. And he indicated that there was 7 transdimensional realities, as he called them, that were superimposed over each other. And at the Planck level, the lowest, microns of existence where everything vibrates, they're just slightly off. And so that enables them to exist in the same space. And that each one of these has been going through these, well, what I now talk about as these gates, the Silver Gate and Golden Gate. And back then he was indicating that we were optimizing the conscious awakening so that he said that at the end of it all those transdimensional realities would collapse into one. Now, one thing that's very interesting about that has a sort of a corroboration effect is we've been tracking timelines, right? Like there's people talking about how the Mandela effect, we have fragments of different timelines that are collapsing. So it's kind of a similar story in the sense that, and my business partner, who some of you may know as Miss M, she and the guides that she speaks to have said that we are collapsing these timelines into the unity timeline. And so it's a very similar kind of understanding that as we, tip the scale on embodying more of our divine consciousness for a unity timeline, I feel like there's a war over timelines right now. They indicate to us, they've been telling us that we're only down to 2. There's 2 final timelines. So when 20 years ago, my cosmic scientist friend was saying that there was 7, he was indicating, I kept asking him over a decade, how are we doing? Are we, making the grade? Because he was saying this is the last chance that we get to sort of, complete this optimization. Each time we go around, he was indicating I was part of the reset. Like if we didn't make it, we would travel back into, about 3,100 BC and try to tweak this whole timeline again. And when he told me that, I freaked out. I'm like, oh, no, we're going to get it right this time. I can't imagine like doing all this over again. But he had said that we'd done it over 6 times and this was the final attempt. And so it was very, compelling to hear that these guides that Miss M communicates with are saying that we're really down to 2. And, it looks very good that we're going to be a soul timeline by the end of this year, quite frankly. And so there's a lot of detail around this personal information, stories that he was telling me about and experiences I've had about tweaking timelines. And so, I feel that this material is really designed to empower us with what we need to be the greatest version of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So can you talk a little bit more about the timeline that you see us or they see us like on by the end of the year and what we can do as individuals to help continue with that progression of that?
Well, it's certainly very comforting that many of us have the same information in terms of go within. We all have the answers within. And, many of the channelings over the years, and of course I've encountered many because I've been on my path for 33 years now. They always say it's easier than you think. And so, what is easier than you think? Well, awakening to your divine consciousness, awakening your heart, the answers are within. And so there's many people now that are awakened, not woke, awakened to the fact that you really are here to make a difference. And, your perfect soul journey is your highest expression should you choose to awaken and align to it. And that's one thing that even my book, before I had the symbol put together the way I do now as an activation sigil, would accelerate people's synchronicity in their lives because, the seeing numbers and whatnot, right, is kind of the universe trying to get your attention, that you're way more plugged in than you realize. And all you have to do is, knock and the door shall be open. And so the more we attune to that, meditate, which could even be walking, it's just listening, right? And really, understanding that we're way more than we realize. We're multidimensional beings, spiritual beings having a human experience and all that. But if you, make a diligent effort to even say, I want to be a vessel for, the highest divine outcome, please, creator, present yourself more to me. Of course, that's what happens,
Right.
And frankly, when I made that sort of declaration myself, I was a little afraid, honestly, because, my personality is one that kind of in the past really liked to be in control. Like I'm very intelligent and I like to understand things and I like to, make sure that I'm safe. And so when I made that first declaration, okay, I'll be a vessel for the divine, do whatever you want with me. It's kind of scary, like what's going to happen? Am I going to lose my free will? But no, you don't. You merge with the divine will and you become a greater version of yourself. And so then, the synchronicities and everything that indicates a deeper activation and awakening to, your higher self embodying within you is sped up.
Yeah, and it sounds like too, I mean, because once you merge with the divine, you're really letting go of, well, the ego, and then you're also letting go of the three-dimensional realities that we're stuck in, that we feel like we have this trajectory of the material possessions and that path. But once you move over onto that other side, you realize you're really truly sovereign and you are your own. Once you find that soul path, that what you came here to do, you're so empowered that it feels just like you're on point.
And so it is comforting that many people are, choosing the same language, ever the more so, we're all talking about the same thing. And, it's a tsunami of consciousness that's sweeping the planet. I wish we had a way to, meter exactly how many people are, expanding their heart into this higher level of light quotient upon the planet. It would be really incredibly interesting.
Yeah. So tell us, talk a little bit more about that. Like so we're on this timeline that we're, supposed to be at by the end of the year, all of us. What does that look like for the planet and for each individual? Like, how does it have to be the majority of the people that are on that? And what happens to the people that aren't doing the work?
Yeah, this is interesting to speculate because there are different beliefs, right? You've got the rapture belief that, all of a sudden you're going to wake up in bed and your spouse is gone, right? And Revelations kind of says something to that effect. So you have that theory. Then you have one that there's kind of with what's going on with the sun too, putting off all these coronal ejections and those waves really causing us to wake up more. There's a one that we're actually going to have a big super wave, and that is going to put us into a dimensional reality shift that is really noticeable. Okay, so in that one, do other people disappear, or do they have a heart attack? And so there's a lot of speculation about these timeline separations, so is it two Earths? What is it? And I don't profess to have an exact answer, other than I know what it takes to be in the highest timeline, or in whatever you want to call that, highest dimensional reality, is to really have an open heart, and to be service to others, right? Instead of just all about, the ego is meant to be a tool in the toolbox, so that you can assert yourself, when you know what it is that you need to do, you can, call on that to be as assertive as necessary to say, I know my, my truth, and I'm going to uphold it. But so when we perfect all these aspects of self, we will find ourselves in the highest divine timeline. And whether or not we're going to lose people, some people believe that we can transverse between where we end up and where others are. Okay, so we can kind of appear as ascended masters and help them. So it's going to be really interesting to see what actually happens.
And I think maybe some of our listeners right now might be a little concerned, like, I don't want to get left behind. I don't want to get left behind. I want to be able to join the group. So are you able to talk about some of the tools that you would recommend and some practical applications that people can use to ascend if they, if they want to go, they just really don't know how to start?
Well, it starts by being a good person. It's that simple. Like, it's interesting how many can witness that, well, try to live in a community, and you know, are you willing to do the dishes, right? It can be simple things like, I'm just willing to help out anywhere I can. I care about everybody that's in my family and in my community, and I put myself aside to be the best version of myself. It really can be that simple. That's awakening the heart. That's being more Christ-like. That's everything about ascending your consciousness. And that's really what it is. We're not leaving, we're not going anywhere, and we're not, turning into light. We're ascending our consciousness. We're becoming the highest version of ourself. And that multidimensional self, a lot of people don't, fully realize we're way bigger. We're way more, what would the word be? Way more intelligent, and as co-creators, capable of things that we just need to give ourselves permission to experience.
Yeah, so greater than the grains of sand that we've been, kind of pushed to believe that, just candles in the wind or grains of sand or something. But no, I really liked what you said, especially, like that we are co-creators. The divine, chunks of the divine are within all of us, right? So we do create that. And I think it is time, like Stacy has said many times before, that we start claiming our sovereignty, that we start claiming that, okay, we're on this planet for a reason, and the reason's not just to sit back and watch it fade into nothing. We're here to learn. We're here to, like you said, to improve, to be of service. And I think that's probably the most simplest way I've heard it explained before, which if anybody knows me, I'm all about simplicity, is just to be a good person. I love that. I love that.
Yeah. And, you touched on, in different terms and different words, we're all sparks of the original, creational force. And in my book, when I was in my late 20s, I was feeling like, I was tapped into some of the highest divine consciousness that I've come to know as my whole self. I call it the oversoul. And at that level, I believe that sort of the creation story is this simple, that there was this consciousness that was the mother, and she was in the void, and she desired to experience love, kind of lonely. Okay. You're everything, but there's like nothing there. And so she chose, and this is actually echoed in a lot of the indigenous belief systems around the planet. She chose to create 12 consorts, and these, male father deity figures, well, they had a lot of fun together. And they experienced love, and they had kids, and those kids became the twin flame story, like the gods of the Greeks and all this Olympian stuff. And so, these children went and created everything. Like before they came down here to experience this, they were experiencing all of their creations. So if they created all the worlds and all the races and all the universes, then they imbued themselves in it to experience it the same way, kind of the pattern from the mother. Okay, I want to experience this. And so we're all just fragments of these original beings. And the more you wake up and tune into, all that you are and who you are, you come to realize, yeah, you're definitely one of these, archetypal original creator beings. And so in that story, we're all just a bunch of duplicates. We're all just like experiencing each other from this place of, oh, I remember you. I mean, certainly we've all experienced meeting, parts of ourself, and of course, in the highest expression of this awakened consciousness, self-realization, and enlightenment, they all say the same thing. I am you and you are me. Okay, so when we take it back to the highest level, that's really what we're talking about. But many people are out there, remembering that we had an experience together, and many people are like, oh my God, you're my twin flame. Well, let me tell you, I've met like 19 that remember the same story that I remember about my past lives, and we've come to the conclusion, that we're duplicates. And so that's really a cool thing to realize. Like, when the first twin flame story didn't go the way I thought it was supposed to go. I thought they were an imposter, and I'm looking for the next right one. But then come to find out, no, they all are exactly, self-loving, self-experiencing self at the highest level. So it's pretty amazing, to realize that, well, I am you, you are me.
Yeah, and it comes down to, there's no separation. What is within is without. And so that's a beautiful story. And so you mentioned in your book about twin flames and how we're now really, there's a lot more twin flames coming, reincarnating all at the same time, where there might have been your twin flame might have been on the other side kind of helping you. But can you talk a little bit more about that and what you're seeing on this planet right now as far as that goes?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel too that this is like the most important, let's call it an experiment or the trigger point for all of creation. What's going on here. There's many beliefs that, over time, these children and their races were actually warring up there, and they decided to take, DNA from all these races and put it all together here so we can work out our differences. And certainly we're seeing some of that, aren't we? Mm-hmm. And anyway, from the place of unity consciousness, ultimately that is what's happening. We're all coming to understand we're all just one. And so the twin flame thing is that many avatars from many other universes are embodying here more fully, to assist in this grand awakening. And, I sometimes joke, like, even if we had a Jesus fully embodied on the planet, look, like, it's a different story today. There's billions of people on the planet. You need to be everywhere at the same time in order to, affect the kind of outcome that we're looking for. And so, I'm not a big advocate of that. He is returning as much as it is awakening with each one of us, so that the entire planet can be affected, simultaneously, because we're all one and we're all aware and we're all online and we're, all coming from different places to assist. So many beings are having this walk-in experience or awakening to the fact that, I'm not really from here.
That does seem like a belief that I think a lot of people have. Like I don't belong here, because they're feeling like they're really out of place.
Yeah, so I think that many have showed up to assist, and there's clusters of these kinds of awakening movements, and we have to work together and take charge. So there's movements that are happening from the four directions, I believe, to build community that is filled with heart.
I love that. Yeah. And so when if someone were to come across their twin flame, because I know there's a lot of talk of being like only one twin flame, but I'm hearing that you're also saying multiple twin flames. And so how do you know if you do come across that person that you've been in, maybe other lifetimes with? And
well, aside from the strong recognition and the, oh my God, I love you, like insta love, right? So if love is eternal and, true love is unbreakable, basically, when you meet somebody and you feel like you love them right away, I would say that your soul family or your twin flame. But when you start to remember the same past life experiences, like whatever, the story might be, but as man and woman, playing a role, and that it's like, oh my God, I remember exactly the same thing has been my experience, that, and these are like key points in time when it was very important to have, the light be as present and expanding on the planet as possible type remembrances, so. And the other thing is too, like, this also sort of tends to answer the question, like, how can there be so many people remembering that they're whatever, King Arthur or Cleopatra or whatever? Well, because like I was indicating, the version of you at the highest level, bifurcated into many parts, to have an experience. And so, when you wake up and you go online with your oversoul consciousness, you're just remembering everything, that all of you has experienced. And so, oftentimes these are the key lifetimes, whether it's being burned at the stake for, your beliefs or any of these kinds of things. These are the high points of, oh my God, that was you too,
Mm.
And so that has been it for me, the feeling, the insta love, the deep. Oh, the other one is the commitment to, we're going to get this right. Like, the deep. So with a lot of these beings that, love is eternal. So I still love them. We come to the realization we're on a mission, and we become mission mates. We're not trying to define what our relationship is anymore. We're here, priority number one, to, fulfill the mission. The mission is to awaken, like I've been indicating, optimize these gates, these times when there's more light coming into the planet to assist us in the accelerated expansion of consciousness. That's what happens at the Golden Gate, which is November 22nd. Happens more at 2 times of the year, May 22nd, and that's the Silver Gate and the Golden Gate. And that's because of how the zodiac sits along the Milky Way, which has an amplification of the energy from the central sun, down that that channel, that arm, if you want to envision, the side of our universe, comes into alignment with the central sun, and the light from that is amplified more at those times than any other time. In fact, in Egypt, there are these maps, not star maps, but zodiac. In Dendara, there's a zodiac portrayed on the temple wall. It's actually on the ceiling. And there are 2 points in time that are referenced with symbols that nobody knows what they mean. They're only used like in this place that I've been able to find. And they demark these 2 locations. And you can tell very, very clearly. And I illustrate that in my book. And so they knew about this stuff. I mean, there's many things that I believe the Egyptians were just, if you imagine archaeologists uncovering the Sphinx going, holy cow, what is this? How did they build this? And they're learning about this ancient, lost civilization, just like we're learning about them. But we're realizing that they were learning about something much older. In fact, where you have these tablets coming out of Mexico now, maybe you've seen some of them that have, ETs literally with Egyptians and Mayans all depicted on the same, carved tablet. So 2 things come to mind. Why are we only finding that now? Well, maybe we're in a timeline, where those exist and they didn't before. And it certainly is bringing the awareness that, these folks, mixing with the ETs like that, and there's a lot of indication of deep kind of mixing, hybriding and whatnot, could very likely, well, when you look at some of the pictures that have stargates and the like, and whoosh between planets, the way they are depicting things in such fine detail, it indicates that, time travel and interdimensional travel and all these kinds of things were prevalent. And so, I reference that to say, I think that we've been up to this a very long time, optimizing the awakening of this divine consciousness so that we can become ambassadors to the rest of creation, basically, in essence.
And so much stuff to unpack with that. And one of the biggest questions that I have, though, you were talking about the gates. So I was actually born on November 22nd.
Oh, right.
So yeah, so my question, I think, and I'm sure there's probably people listening that were born on May 22nd.
That's me.
That's you? Nice.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. So is there like I don't want to call us, are we special or something, but for people that have been born on the days of the gates, is there some different type of like connection? Like, do we have a more direct connection to enlightened masters to star seeds, to people of different dimensions. Is there something different with us born on
I
those
think
days?
there's a few things that could be said about that. I mean, anybody that's born on a cusp is going to experience both signs. So you
Mhm.
feel like you have, more personalities or more characteristics or skills or qualities, so, but aside from that, um, I mean, I did feel like at a very young age that, whoa, I'm here on a mission. Like I'm very dedicated to getting something. I'm not here to play small. I'm here to get something done on a large scale. I mean, did you have that sense about
It wasn't,
reality?
yeah, it wasn't necessarily of, I'm here on a mission, but it was, I just remember at an early age seeing, there's a table in front of me, what's beyond that table, what's within that table, and actually like studying things more in depth. And also at a young age, realizing that what I'm seeing in front of me and what I'm touching that's not it. That's not everything. And I did actually have paranormal experiences at a very young age when I was around 2 years old, is when that started too. So yeah, for me, it didn't really translate at the time as, I'm here for a mission. It's doing that now though.
Yeah. And I don't have enough data to say for sure, like,
Right.
because I've only met a few people with the same thing, but, and no, we're all special. I mean, let's face it, we're all part of that original, ring of creators, and the Bible refers to the Elohim, which means plural creators. It doesn't
Mhm.
mean singular. And
Mhm.
so I believe that's what these, divine children are, the Elohim. And yeah, many people are waking up to, oh, I'm an archangel, or oh, I'm an Arcturian, or whatever the case might be. And that is just really the case. There is, we each do have multidimensional selves. By that I mean your higher self is on each dimension. So you have a higher self all the way up to the, one creator being that maybe you're, I don't know, a third from the left or something out of, 12. Well, initially there was 12, and then they broke off to experience the male and the female aspect. And so that 12 became 24. But if you think about it, you have all these gatherings of, the 12 disciples, the 12 Knights of the Round Table, so the 12 Olympian gods and the like. And so really it's an emulation of um, these archetypal energies and the embodiment of them.
And so I just kind of going back to that piece about the 1122, which I thought was very fascinating, because you had talked a lot about your experience with 1122 and seeing that, and that stuck out to me when you were receiving the download for the symbol, but also I think you were going to the pyramids. You probably tell the story better than me, but that just stood out to me, because after I was activated with the symbol, I saw 1122 everywhere, and I'd been seeing numbers for years now. But that was something that came to me. And then one of the things that, when I was on my way home from Sedona, that trip, I was texting Sam, when I don't know if I knew his birthday was on 1122 then or after, but it was like, it just made sense that, he's like, yeah, I want to be your co-host, and so it was just this divine synchronistic thing.
Well, it's interesting about the synchronicity of that number for me, because it started in my teens, and it was a situation where whenever I had an epiphany or like a feeling of being like tuned in, like there's something more, and I'm on a hot trail and I got a lead or whatever the case, boom, there'd be 1122. Like I'm writing in my journal, okay, I just had this experience. What time is it? 1122. And it was just like, oh my God, after a while, I was like, okay, already, what is this message? And, I couldn't ignore it. And frankly, every year, the energy on that alignment became stronger and stronger, where even when November 1st came around, the beginning of this acceleration to 11 days to 11 more days to 11/22, there was a increase of synchronicity of seeing these numbers. And there are a variety of numbers that I would see, but primarily it's 11/22. And it would be kind of overwhelming. And I write about a story in the book where it literally was, I was at working at the Defense Intelligence Agency, and I didn't like what I was experiencing, feeling, seeing, like I had to be escorted in and out of the bathroom to lunch. It was a very dense place to work. And they're like, we need your light there. And I'm like, okay, how long? Can we get out of here? Like, what? Please. And it was on the day before, November 22nd, that I walked in and they issued me badge number 11. And on the 22nd, they issued me badge number 22. And then I'm watching the clock, waiting for the call, because they're like, it'll be soon. They've been telling me that for like 7 days or so. It rang at 11:22. The phone said, you can leave the building now. You're being processed out. It was my headhunter. We got you a new job. And I walked out, and the back of my car had one of those stickers. It was a brand new car where you had to run on the temporary plates, and it expired on November 22nd. And I was like, okay, whoa, this is intense. And then I was like, well, what am I going to do? I'm off work, and today was the day that Star Trek First Contact was playing at the theater on November 22nd, back in whatever this was, 1992 or something, or probably 90. And anyway, so I usually, if you're going to go to the theater, you just go down to the mall. Well, that's not how it worked in DC. Went down to the mall. They're like, no, you got to go over here, turn over there, go down there. And so I got out of the car after following those instructions, and I looked up, and it was the 2200 block and 11th Avenue. And I was like, oh my God, okay, I get it. I'm not sure what I get, but I'm listening. And it was literally, you must follow the path that we're laying out for you to discover, remember, recall all this wisdom. In fact, I had a channeling while I was there. I guess I was about 26, and Mother Mary came through and said, you're going to write a great book. And I'm like, what, me? About what? She goes, sacred geometry and numerology. And there was a group of people there, and I didn't want to go, well, what is that? So I went to the bookstore and looked these things up, because we didn't have the internet then. And I pulled off a new book off the shelf and opened it up, looking through this numerology book, and a piece of paper fell out, and it said, this is the key to the universe. And it had a triangle with 9 little triangles and 9 numbers in it. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm supposed to figure this out. And it was really the key to, a deep inner awareness of what all these numbers mean. And of course, that's, a deep rabbit hole. I've expanded and revised my books to 1,300 pages. And so I actually ended up, being instrumental in creating the English language and hiding these number sequences and deeper awareness of numbers in the English language. And that was part of my process when I was doing numerology, on thousands of words. I found a pattern, and that pattern actually had 11/22 encoded into it.
Wow.
Like the word, left and right, mind and heart, all these words that describe the simple construct of the ascension process, or the ascension, awakening to higher divine consciousness. Everything that describes that stage, the words are all set with these key numbers. Wow. So I was like, oh my God, who put that there? And it turns out it might have been me.
That does sound like a really fun rabbit hole to go down. I I know it'd probably be take a while, but there was something that stood out to me in your book that I just was wondering about, and I know you talk a lot about the number 5 and the meaning behind 5, and the reason it stood out to me, I mean, for many reasons, but like Sam and I, we're both life path number 5s, and so there's some, like, I've always felt like there's like some power number in that, and so it just was really interesting. Yeah, and I was wondering if you could talk just a little bit about maybe that and what the meaning of
There's
the
a,
number
there's a lot
5
of symbology there, the 5-pointed star, like the human shape. There's layers, of course. Even Pythagoras and his mystery school, that he learned everything in 22 years in Egypt and went and started his own school. His symbol for the school was a pentagon, 5-sided platonic solid. And so, but 5 is, just very, you've got your conventional, it's about change, it's about travel, it's about freedom. But I feel there's an esoteric underlying value that's also like divine love. And so I think that all the numbers have, more of a conventional meaning, and then, akin to this deeper master number system, a deeper esoteric value. And so 5 is just very, symbolic of the human experience, 5 fingers, 5 toes, the 5 senses, on and on, right? So it's there's also an interesting thing about the journey of the soul along the sequence of numbers, from 1 to 9. Like everything comes from source, right? It broke off, and then there's 2, then there's the awareness of outside of that original self-consciousness. And then as it progresses down the path leading to 9, which is returning to, unity consciousness and wholeness, there's different indications of experiences along the way. Probably the biggest highlight is when you get to number 7 and 8, which, by the way, left and right both add up to 7 and 8 respectively, the words. And when you look at 7 and 8 and you do numerology on those two, they add up to 1122. So, encoded right there is, when you make the inside like the outside and the above like the below, so that the male is not male and female is not female, so that they become one and the same. There's this phrase in the Gnostic scriptures, saying number 22, where it says, when the 2 become 1, then you enter the kingdom of light. And so it's really interesting that 7 represents spirit, right? And wisdom. And then 8 represents like matter and power and material things. And so when those 2 merge in a harmonious balance, that's when, the mind and heart become one, and you can activate your greatest divine consciousness and, become enlightened. So the number 9 represents that.
And so I know a lot of people have been reporting, just seeing sequences, maybe on license plates, on the clock, on, receipts and things like that. How can people use that information as they are seeing those numbers?
Okay, so the divine is trying to communicate with you, it's watch your thoughts, or it's, the indication to, take a step, or just to be more aware, that you have this ability to draw on your higher consciousness. And I also like to talk about how people are seeing 1111. I think that activates your DNA, but I also think that, it's kind of like painting with numbers, like, colors rather, as numbers. And, it's a black and white palette without having a deeper appreciation of all the potential number sequences, these 3-digit number sequences, whether it be 153 or, 132 or 148, the ones that come out of this master sequence book material stuff. The divine intelligence is capable of sending you more messages that confirm that you're on the right path. I think that the confirmation, whether it be through synchronicity or even deja vu, frankly, I think that deja vu is a big indication that you're on your highest path. I believe that in our dreams, we're sampling, our future timelines. And so often what a deja vu is, it's remembering that you dreamt about it. And so it's a cue that you're on your highest path. So yeah, awakening to the tools for being able to become your greatest version of yourself. One of them clearly is people seeing numbers and feeling like you're connected. You're not alone. That's a big sensation right there, to feel like I'm one, with the universe and I'm not separate.
And I think that's such a powerful message, especially in our culture. And, I know there's communities that have more emphasis on community. And I think in the culture here in the United States anyways, it's been a lot of isolation, just, separation. And I think it's getting better. I think we're coming together, but, to really feel like people are connected to something greater than themselves and each other.
Yeah, so we can co-create heaven on earth by practicing those simple things. Be a good person, and help out more, and show up for your community. And as we band together, uh, the human capacity to create, and the inspiration of ingenuity and the like, is extremely powerful. We can always create and find solutions. So um, I'm hoping that through this process of greater awakening, that we, have more global solutions that are uplifting humanity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm wondering, would it be possible to lead us through an activation of some sort with the symbol? Is that something you can do on over
Yeah,
video or?
I can infuse energy into the video and into the audio. We can take a minute doing that, and there will be perhaps a feeling, but a communication of the number sequences that will facilitate a quickening. Absolutely.
Okay, beautiful.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, let's take a few minutes. All right. Awesome.
Beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
I know I felt a vibrating energy just pulsating through my body. It was pretty
Yeah, and
powerful.
actually, I had my eyes open for about half of it, and when you held the symbol up to the your camera there, I actually saw two faces in
Wow.
the symbol, and the more I tried to tell myself, no, that's not two faces, look at something else, the more pronounced the faces became. It was
Wow.
very interesting. Like no, you're not gonna deny this one. Here, look at these faces. Look at these faces. So yeah, that was kind of cool. And then yeah, afterwards, like Stacy was saying, there was definitely kind of a lifting vibration from there. So
Beautiful.
yeah, it was awesome.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us. And
Yeah,
so,
my pleasure.
Mathues, tell
Yeah.
our listeners how they can find you and what you're currently working on.
Okay. There's two places that are important. I've put together a site called StargateCodes.com, which links off to my 7 Seal Codes site and my Etsy site if you want to get some of these sigils, and then further deepdisclosure.com, where I put out information about what I can reveal pertaining to, the White Hat Earth Alliance movement. And so those are the two primary places. And of course, if you simply look up Mathues Imhotep, Mathues Imhotep as a search on the internet or on YouTube, you'll find a bunch of information there too.
Okay, beautiful. And so,
Oh, one last remark.
yeah.
I'm going to put a link and a button on Stargate Codes for the activation training and that certification, so that we can get more people assisting others in, accelerated awakening.
Oh, beautiful. Do you have a date for that yet?
That's going to be up in a handful of days. So just if it's not there, tune back and it'll be there shortly.
Beautiful. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here with us
my
today.
pleasure.
And thank you
Awesome.
for sharing your wisdom and experience with us. And thank you for listening to our show. Stay tuned for more episodes being released on Mondays at 5:55 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. And if you've enjoyed this show, we would love a 5-star written review on iTunes. And of course, please share the love by sharing it with your friends. And if you want to support the work that we're doing, please consider making a donation to our show by visiting our Patreon website at patreon.com/Be the Love Podcast. And until next time, love yourself, love each other, and love the world. We love you.
Love you guys. Take care, and we'll talk to you later.
We at Be the Love Podcast are honored to be supporting the Kamoti Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization in Uganda that is working to build a school that will promote and support healthcare, education, skills development, feeding the hungry, human rights, and environmental defenders. Their goal is to work with young mothers and single mothers, street children, and vulnerable families who lack nurture as they guide them to become productive individuals, which will lead to a productive generation. Please see our show notes on how to become a donor, mentor, volunteer, or sponsor.
Thank you, Heather Lynn, for providing us with your beautiful song to accompany our show, Be the Love. If you would like to learn more about Heather Lynn and her music, please visit her website at heatherlynnmusic.com. And thank you, Chrissy Grace at Leading Edge Productions, for the beautiful design and graphics.
And thank you for tuning in. And until next time, we are souls on the journey. And thank you for hopping on the Ascension bus with us. And remember, there is always a seat for you.